Welcome back, friends, to another video about my truck. Today I just want to show you guys some stuff that I've already done to it, in particular the seat belts. We've already talked about that already. I didn't realize there was no seat belts in there. I guess you don't have to put them in there, but as I pointed out, my wife really thought this should be project number one, is adding seat belts. So that's what we did. It did cost some money to do them. The nice thing about these trucks in this year, starting in 67, they did already install the mounting locations for the 3-point seat belts if you wanted to add them. I guess they were optional in the 70s and the early 60s. So I guess you can purchase safety at the time. But anyhow, now with today's traffic, you definitely want to have some type of a seat belt. So I bought these off of eBay from a place called Retro Belt, and they seem like really nice hardware. I really like it. They look really nice. They work really nice. They did say in the ad that they were for a GM Chevy truck, including this year, make, and model. But I will have to say that it was not very, there was almost zero instructions. There was some basic instructions on how to just install seat belts in any vehicle, but nothing specific to this vehicle. And so there was a couple things that were a little bit tricky. For instance, the mounting locations for where the reel is was a little bit tricky with this because of the gas tank. It still has the gas tank behind the seat. I know a lot of guys replace or move it, I guess I should say, to the back underneath the bed. I haven't really thought about doing it yet, but for now it still has the original gas tank, and so it's hard to get room for the seat belts. And I would say that was kind of the one downside, was that it was really hard to mount it, especially on this side. I will show it to you right here. If you notice here, right in that same spot, I had the tank selector, because this does have the extra gas tanks, one on each side, so it's 3 gas tanks in total. And then it also has like the gas tank in there, so you can kind of see it's all really wedged in there. And it was kind of hard to get it figured out how to get the upper strap. So I think I probably should have mounted it like down here and brought the upper strap around. So I'll probably have to go back and fix that, just because it's not really great how it all fits in there. But there's just enough room, as you can see, for the door to close. And it just was a little tight fitting. So I think I'll have to get that figured out at some point. The seat's all the way back, and maybe if you were shorter and you didn't need it back as far, you could probably do it. But it definitely makes you feel a lot safer having those seat belts in there ready to go. So I did those. Another thing I did real quick, I'll show you, is the power cables and the blocks on the batteries. Originally they were backwards. I don't know if that's a normal thing, but like maybe whoever did some work on it, like the black wire, this large black conductor, originally was on a terminal that was on the negative, and it was going, it was on the positive, and it was going to the starter. And it just drove me crazy that the red conductors were not on the positive and the black conductors were on the negative. So when I started to switch them, one of them broke. The old lead or whatever material that was cracked and broke off. So I bought new ones off of Amazon. They were like really cheap. They're like $12 or something like that. And I was able just to cut them, put them in new. I also noticed that the fusible link had been removed, so I installed a new fusible link that was like $6, just to try and protect all the electronics in the vehicle, and make it safe as well to have the fusible link in there. So I did that so far. I think that mostly brings you up to speed with things that I have done. And I will show you real quick as a preview what the next thing I'm going to do is. The next project is going to be power steering. I really want power steering in it, make it easier to drive. I've already purchased a power steering gearbox hopefully it's the right one. I got it super cheap off of smoking deal on Walmart.com of all places for like $100. It's normally like 300 some bucks. So I got that for $100. And the thing that cost me a lot of money was the Volvo electric steering pump. It's taking a page out of the Drifters book. A lot of the drifter guys, they take off their power steering pump that is attached to the motor. It runs off of belts, and they put in the electric because they don't want the engine draw. Also, because it is always at a high RPM and it burns them out. So that one cost me some coin. I did have to save up for that for a little while. It was like 200 bucks, maybe a little over 200 bucks. But I want to install that in. I bought some AN fittings and lines. Those were really cheap. So that's the next project, is to install the electric steering pump and also the power steering gearbox and all the lines. I have everything for it. It's just a matter of getting time to do it. And I don't know if I'll need a different Pitman arm. We'll have to wait and see. It's one of those things, like, you never know. The 67 had its own power steering system from the 68. They started a different system in 68. So I'm having to just basically build a system using what I can. I wanted to put a normal power steering pump on it, but I couldn't find anybody that has a two groove pulley for the crank. And as you can see, I only have a single that just runs one that runs all the way around up the water pump to the alternator. So I put an ad on Craigslist, and some guy wrote back and he said, "Hey, I've got a a two groove pulley," and he wanted $600 for it. So that's way outside the budget and a ridiculous price. So I'm not doing that. So that's why I'm going this route, to try and save some money, and we'll see. So hopefully I'll get some time to do it soon, and then take you guys along for the work, and we'll see how it turns out.